Okay. Okay. Wow. What a day. This is turning out to be not what I expected. Just wait for this to update. Why is it dark? Here, hold on a sec. Why is it can anybody hear me? See me? Let me see here. What's going on? There we go. Okay. Cool. Sorry. It was just taking it a minute to come undone. Come to work out here. What a day. Yeah. I'll get into all of it. I will get into all of it. I was gonna do a video this morning to talk about, like, just in general all this stuff, and I'm gonna try to keep it the same. I recognize you guys. Dabby is a bunch of you from my friends from Attacking Football in here. Yes, nice to see you guys. Let's address that. Owen Thompson. Ineos are embarrassing. McKenna will fail hard. Let's address first things first. Okay, I was going to do a video today to talk about some things. I wasn't going to say Ten Hag is sacked or anything like that. And I'm not going to say that right now, okay? The news that you're seeing coming out today is not from Ineos, okay? It's not. I 100% can confirm without a single doubt that it is not coming from Ineos. It's not coming from Ineos, and they did not want this news to come out. They did not want to put this out there. They did not want this to be out there. Hey, thank you, DB Cooper. Appreciate it, man. Every time I see your name commenting on thing, it harkens me back, obviously, to the original days. Thank you. But anyway, it had nothing to do with them. But let's talk about, like, in general, you know, because we've got these interviews and things here. You know, what is the right answer to everything that's gone on so far, you know? What is the right answer to, you know, to this whole situation? Let's say, you know, there are new owners that come in. Honestly, if you think it is Ineos, you are just completely wrong. And you have to think, about what's going on at the moment. And you actually have to think it through instead of being reactive and understand what's happened here. But let's talk about it. Let's look at it in detail, the different scenarios. The fact of the matter is, I think what most people are upset about is the people who are upset are the most are people who wanted Ten Hag to stay. And at the end of the day, you're mad because Ten Hag is probably leaving and you didn't want that. And whatever happens, you're going to be upset about what happens. And you can try to pin it on certain things, but that's what's really underneath it. KC Mango Productions, what's the time on McKenna Club announcement? We'll talk about things later, okay? You know, so yeah, but here's the thing about it, okay? It's not about covering up for him. It's about the reality of the situation. Ineos come in as new owners. Let's say that they decided Ten Hag isn't the guy. What do? What do they do? Quit being weird and quit being weird and doing that. Whoever that is, that's weird. That's weird behavior. Whoever you are, it's weird behavior. Just don't be weird to other. Don't be weird to other users. Don't be weird. There's a few of you weird, odd people in here. Just odd. Ineos come in, and let's say they decide Ten Hag isn't their guy, okay? They're only here in March. They only arrive in March. They didn't pick Ten Hag. I told you in a video in November 9th that they were looking at contingency plans prior to even getting into the club. That's a reality. If you've ever seen any takeover of a business, everyone gets replaced. You have to think that's the most likely occurrence because Ten Hag isn't their guy, and that's always been the problem. Ten Hag isn't their guy. Ten Hag isn't the manager that they chose, okay? That isn't the person that they chose for the way that they view the club, for the way that they view the project, for the way that they view where things are going moving forward. That's always been the issue. So as I've said, they were going to look at this season, keep him for this season, and they were going to look at it like an interview. They were going to look at it like an interview, and they were going to say, let's see how he does, and then we'll compare him to our other potential prospects. Now, so if they weren't convinced and he had a chance to succeed, but they gave him a chance to play, they gave him a chance to see the season out, to try to get European qualification, to do whatever he can, and it's been a disaster, honestly. Maybe it's his fault, maybe it isn't, but it's been a disaster. If they said in March when they got in, Ten Hag will leave at the end of the season, then what happens? People be happy? No, because they're going to sit there and say, we didn't qualify for Champions League because they sacked the manager mid-season, and so nobody was motivated and the players down tools. I guarantee you that is exactly what all of you who are complaining would have said if they had done it 3 months ago. And we'd missed out on Champions League like we have. And we missed out on Europe like we have. Instead, what you've seen is that nobody's down tools. The players have tried. The players have worked hard. You've never seen them give up on that. And I think that's why they've done it the way that they've done it. You can't turn around and say that they knew the manager was gone 3 months ago and that's why they weren't playing. Rafa, thank you for all the incredible content you've been putting out. Let's win this tomorrow. Greetings from Switzerland. Absolutely. Thank you so much, and absolutely hope we can. Thanks for all the work, bud. Sadly, players win. Owen, I understand and respect what you're saying, but it has nothing to do with the players. Has nothing to do with the players. First of all, players don't decide the manager. You can't say players back the manager, so let's keep him, because then you're saying if players don't back the manager, let's get rid of him. It's irrelevant. The players aren't there for the manager. That's what's wrong. Players played for Jose and then they didn't want to play for Jose. Players played for Ollie and then they didn't want to play for Ollie. Players played for, other people, and that's not how it works. That's not the way that you run a football club properly. That's not what happens. That's the wrong way to view things. They play for the club. Like I said, I'll say this, Ten Hag, Sam Allardyce, no manager, it shouldn't matter that they show up on the pitch every single game and try their hardest. That shouldn't matter. That's on the players and on the club. It's not on the manager. If they had, like I said, if they had done it 3 months ago, then people would be sitting there saying, well, that's why we didn't succeed. That's why we didn't get Champions League. That's why we've lost these games. That's why this didn't happen, because everyone turned down because they came in and interfered with the season. Instead, they've done their best to not interfere. They've done their best to sit there and say, you play the season out. Players last week thought that Ten Hag was staying. Last week, they figured Ten Hag was staying. That's what a lot of them felt like. Ten Hag figured he's staying, right? That's good. I think that there's not a better way to do it. I don't know. The fact of it is, the badness of the situation is that it's likely that Ten Hag is leaving the club. There's no good timing for that. If they didn't start interviewing people, and we'll talk about that in a minute, then what happens? Look at Bayern. They announced it 3 months ago, and they've spent 3 months trying to find a candidate, only to end up at like their 20th person because it took so long to try to get through the numbers. Look at Barcelona. They announced it, then they came back to Xavi, then gone with Xavi, then back to Xavi, then now he's gone. Now who are they hiring? Now they have Flick in. Was he their first choice? I doubt it. So there's a lot of things at play. Angie, it's obvious Ten Hag knew he could lose tomorrow and he shifted the blame. This has been leaked from SEG. Ten Hag, Ineos kept stuff under wrap for months and they won't leak it one day before the final. It's SEG. Maybe not. I'm not saying it's SEG, but it's definitely not, Ineos that are leaking this. Yeah, look, and it's been quiet. You look at all the stories, no decision till after the FA Cup. Nothing concrete for months and months and months. It's hard for them to have frankly handled this differently. I'm open to suggestions, but they never told him he was staying next year. He's been asked if he had assurances, and they never said he did. And he never said he did. There's been no lies. There's been no deceit. There's been nothing messy about. I mean, there's nothing beyond the reality of you have new management coming in. Everyone is gone. This is just the reality of the situation that people have not faced. When Ineos came in last year, I told you, CEO is going to go. John Murtaugh is going to go. These guys are going to go. This is just what happens. Anybody who hasn't opened their eyes to it is blind. That's just what happens. These things happen. And so they have given Ten Hag a chance. And like I said, I'm not confirming they've said that he's sacked or something like that. But my point is the way that this has gone down is practically all that they could. This is probably the only way that it could have gone up to this point in time. Okay? Jeff, and you finished the intro. Well, I ended up doing a live, but if you send it to me, maybe I can get it in here for the video. Okay? No, they could not have said last month you're gone, and he could have gone to Bayern. They couldn't have. We were still within up until the final game of the year. We were still within a shot of getting to. We were still within a shot of getting to Europe, right? We could have. Alex King says simple fact is Chelsea and Brighton forced our hand, and that is part of the situation. This is just a reality, and yeah. This is sorry. I'm this time I'm going to allow myself get distracted because I see some of these things that have been said. What did you say? Jan Ortop said? I understand he was told the week before the Arsenal game. Interesting. Yeah. Look, the fact of the matter is that you don't know if or when Ten Hag has heard anything, and neither do I, frankly. Any idea on Ineos plans for the existing debt? We'll talk about that. We can talk about that later. Thank you for that. Interesting. Those are interesting points. Thank you guys for that. And if things pop up while I'm doing this, you can feel free to share and spam me, because I would like to see if other news comes out while we're talking about this. I don't care. You can lose respect for me. It doesn't mind. I am telling you the truth logically. I am telling you the truth logically. Like I said, the fact is that when somebody as a new owner comes in, there's no clean way to do all of this. What would be a clean way? I'm open to suggestion. If they were thinking to replace the manager, and that was the likely outcome because it's not the guy that they want, and they don't think that he fits what they want. If that's all true, what is the clean way? I'm totally happy for somebody to tell me the best way to do it that magically makes it all work. I'm really, really happy for anybody to tell me that. I'm happy for anybody to tell me that, really am. Because if you can suggest a better way, manager choice is what happened to best in class. We can talk about that in a minute. Thank you for that. Can you reinstate my account on the Discord? You're going to have to DM as long as you haven't said anything. There are things that are just non-negotiables with terms of Discord bans that have things to do with, racism, sexism, homophobia, these types of things that are just, there's things that you can, there's things that are non-negotiables. That's all I would say. So depends. Yeah, but I'm open to it. If you have a great suggestion, go in and type it and tell me what is the best way that they could have handled this. Because again, like I said, if they said it 3 months ago, you run the risk of everybody knowing the manager's gone and it ruining the season. You know, you don't know what they've said to them internally. I'm just saying, don't make that assumption. You don't know what they've told him totally about the situation or where it's at and what they've asked him. Christopher Muniz, McKenna has to be fast or else Ineos look bad. Be a hit fast. Yeah, that's a good point. We'll talk about that. A thoughtful and pragmatic response to this decision. What a relief. I appreciate the measured response to the news. Thank you, Corey. Thank you. And then, yes, I mean, look, they're not, again, repeat myself, they're not saying this. They didn't put this out here. But in terms of interviews, can you wait until the end of the season? Not talk to anybody, not look at any other managers? When you have a market where Liverpool were looking for managers, Barcelona looking for managers, Chelsea looking for managers, Bayern looking for managers, maybe Portuguese clubs looking for managers, and that means Ajax looking for managers, Feyenoord looking for managers, Nice looking for managers. That's a lot of clubs. Jack Webb, potential McKenna appointment, exciting and risky. Sean Quigley, is it true, James, you were hesitant to say yesterday? I'm not going to confirm it right now because, one, Ineos didn't say this. The club are saying nothing's happened yet. No comment or denial. I don't know which it is. Doesn't really matter. And I don't think it's... I wouldn't want to say something like this ahead of a cup final. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want it out there, much as I don't think anybody wants it out there, if it's the case for this to be out there. I wouldn't. So I'm just not going to say it because for me, it's always been the same thing over the last 6 months. I've known, obviously, I've hinted at certain things. Thank you, Jevin. I'll check it out. I've hinted at certain things, but I have not wanted to get into it. You know what I mean? Like it's a challenge between being a fan and reporting things. I don't want to do things that mess with the club or cause problems. I wouldn't ever want to put out a video or a thing that goes out and says, Ten Hag is sacked. I know these things get watched. I know people look at this stuff. I do. I know it for a fact, and it goes out there. So it is what it is. So yeah, I haven't heard the magical, best way to deal with things. So what's actually happened? Let's talk about a few of these pieces of news. But before that, give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find this. Let's see. Did it work? Let's see. Do you guys want me to play the... You guys want me to play this intro that Jevin made? You guys want me to play this intro and then I'll start actually talking through some of this news? You guys want me to play this? I think I'm going to play this. Yeah. Media file. News source. James, I'm not gonna Bando Boys GM. James, no question. Just want to say thank you, and I thank you too. All right, let me find it.
Someone cooked here.
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna have to pay Jevin for these, honestly. Oh, man. You guys kill me, honestly. It's too good. That is too good. Yeah. Too good. Wow. All right. Yeah, Jevin's the best. Jevin is the best. Okay. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about it. Let's get into some of these things, and then let's oh man, and then we'll mix. These lives are gonna kill me, honestly, man. These are going to fucking kill me. Fucking no. All right. Okay. Sorry. I gotta get it together. Yeah. Yep. All right. Cool. Let's talk about some of the news though. So obviously the news came out that there was some names, and in yesterday's live I was talking about some of the names that to me were realistic. There's there's been a lot of names that have been looked at over many months and in recent times as potential ones. One of the things that I said a long time ago, November 9th, when I said that, is that it's very, decision is not going to be something that's made by Jim Ratcliffe and Dave Brailsford in terms of who, right? Obviously, they're involved in the talks, but if they're looking at a new manager, it's going to be based on who they hire. And so at the time, they were looking at guys like Paul Mitchell and things to come in. But they did have an idea of the philosophy of what they wanted, which is ideally they wanted kind of an up-and-coming manager, a coach. They had an idea of the club structure that they wanted, and they'd taken a lot of advisement on this from people in the business, right? And so part of it was going to see, does Ten Hag even fit into that? That's part of the discussion too. Does he fit into the club kind of structure? And that's been a part of the assessment of him versus other candidates and things over this period of time. So then obviously they brought in Omar Barada. Omar Barada was big in moving for Jason Wilcox. They liked Dan Ashworth. There's people that Sir Jim and Sir Dave liked, people like Graham Potter, that were serious candidates. But as I always said, the thing is, and Gareth Southgate, these were real names. But the point is that I always maintained is that if there was a change, it wasn't going to be them saying, that's the person, right? It was going to be somebody else. It was going to be the people that they hired coming in. And when Wilcox came in, I believe part of his job was to look at Ten Hag. There was this article from Decker and a Telegraph about assessing kind of the options, assessing the options. Assessing Ten Hag, kind of he's on trial, looking at what he's doing, all of that. Looking at all of that. And then as well as that, it was my understanding, was, of course, assess him against the, say, potential candidates that they're looking at, the potential candidates that they're talking to. And that helped to determine who would be the right people, who would be the best individual, all of that. And, that was part of the job. And so then part of that became, obviously, they were going to need to have discussions. And, as I revealed it, on last week, the 13th, 14th, maybe the 15th, I don't remember which day it was. There was a big meeting in Monaco between the executives, including Jason Wilcox and all of them, where they're making major decisions. Prior to that meeting, they'd met, I believe, Kieran McKenna, Thomas Frank, and potentially spoken with Thomas Tuchel's representatives, and maybe others as well. Wilcox specifically being the one involved in this stuff, right? As far as I'm aware, from based on some of the reports and some of the things I've been able, that was what was reported about McKenna, right? And to have these interviews and to look at it and say, okay, who's the right person? I think they interviewed a lot more. The short list may even be a little smaller than what it's being said. But they were interviewing, looking at candidates, a few different questions being asked. They were to say, this is the role we have on offer. This is how you'd fit in at United. This is how it would work. Are you interested in this? What is your view on these things? And those kind of questions and basic things to see who is a genuine candidate for the whole thing. And to try and kind of figure out, the best way to put it all together. Oh, I didn't even know ads were going to play today. I didn't even know I had them on. Anyway, sorry. So sorry. Yeah, I saw that. I'll talk about the Ten Hag in a second, and that Yan thing, Jan Fortov. Quick ad. Cool. So, there's they wanted to interview all of these people, and so they've been looking at them. And Thomas Frank's a serious candidate. We'll talk about him in a minute. There's other people, but then it seemed like they started to eliminate certain people and put some up in the front and on top, and so they were going to weigh those guys up against Ten Hag. And then obviously we had through the end of the season, still had a chance of Europe, still had solid things that could have contributed to the argument, right, of where things were at. It wasn't going to be based on this game or that game ever, the whole, but the entire decision and the fit into everything. So they started doing interviews, and then Ten Hag, right? They've obviously been weighing him up against it. The major concerns with Ten Hag since the beginning have been, number one, how would he fit within the structure? No matter how much you rewrite this, no matter how much people want to deny this, Ten Hag asked for a lot of power at United over transfers, over things like that. Okay, he asked for a lot of power. Now, should they have given it to him? No. They had a bad club structure. They didn't set things up correctly. He had enormous influence. As it was reported, he has a veto on transfers, something that Pep Guardiola doesn't have, Klopp didn't have, and that most major managers don't have. Carlo Ancelotti doesn't have it. As well as other things in terms of the influence. You go back and read articles from The Athletic and people during that first summer and even the second summer before Murtaugh left and things started getting shifted, all the blame to him. There's a lot of talk in there about Ten Hag's influence on even the prices that were paid for players like Antony and such. He was given too much power. He just was. And he's not, and again, I blame the club for that, because no manager in modern football should be given that kind of thing. That's not what they're the experts in. You need to have your recruitment department and all of that really putting it forward the way that it should be. To get it done correctly. So that I think is important, is an issue, and that was the major issue at the beginning, is what do you want to fit within this coaching role that they have defined? What are other things that they want to determine? What are some of the other things that they want to determine? They want, you talk about the injuries and the fitness. Well, Ten Hag sets the training schedules, right? Now, that's another thing where I would say, again, maybe he shouldn't. You know what I mean? At a lot of clubs, you have, obviously, the coach runs training, but you have other people who are setting up, these are the days we're going to train, this is how much time, this is the intensity, this is all of that work on these things for basic, for health and fitness and things like that. There's a lot of little stuff that that needed to be done. There's a lot of little stuff, I guess I would say, that around the coaching job that not necessarily even little, but that you want run by somebody else who are the experts. Yes, you're correct. Injuries we've been having since LVG, we've never had this. The manager's always done this. That's the point. That is the point. There's never been someone set up to say this. They're going to organize the training. They're going to organize these kind of things. It's always been on the manager. That's my point. It's not like it's specifically on Ten Hag. It's about the setup, and does somebody want to be fit within that? We've had seasons off and on and injuries, but never a really competent data-led setup of how to arrange and organize, training in a manner that is best, right? That's a reality, and that needs to change, and that's something that needs to change. You look at some of the things that, Chelsea's briefs have talked about set-piece coaches and all of that kind of stuff. Well, we had a set-piece coach. Under Ollie, we brought in the young guy who went off, who's left now. to manage set pieces, and actually our set pieces went up to second, third best in the league, quite high. They improved pretty dramatically. And yeah, Eric Ramsey, we took him off set pieces again and had him stop being a set piece coach years ago, and then it crashed down. That's a silly thing. Petition for Pretty Face reveal needs to happen. Hasn't he been on? We did podcasts with us before. He's on video. I'm sure he has. But I want to do a video. He wants to do a video again next week. Did Ten Hag know he was sacked before the Arsenal game? Right. So I'll get to that. I will get to that. Thank you for that. I will get to that. The point is that it's not all on Ten Hag, but that doesn't make him the right guy. I've said this for a long time. The decision is not, is it all Ten Hag's fault? It's that, is he the best manager for them moving forward? Is he the right guy? Is he the right choice for them and how they view things? There's so much that has to be done and put together to fit things into the way that they view it. And the question was, did Ten Hag fit into that? And there's been serious concerns about that. There just has been serious concerns about that. That's a reality. There's been concerns about that from the Ineos side for a long time. I've said that for a long time. I've maintained that for a long time. The view that he may not be the better, the best fit in terms of what they want out of a manager. And that applies to a lot of other names too. That was issues with Julian Nagelsmann as well. Issues with other names that have been brought up over the last some months where there's been, basic contacts and basically there's just not a fit in terms of agreement. There's maybe some doubts about Tuchel. That's what I've heard. I stand by that. That was in the Times report yesterday, that there's some doubts about, his fit with management and all of that too. So we'll see. I understand there's a report that he's a favorite too, but there's a little bit of conflicting information there. So see, when you say things like they want a puppet that just coaches and has zero say in anything, I don't know why it's said derogatorily. It's a job. To be a head coach is a job. In every sport, otherwise, there's a head coach, and managers aren't put on this deified platter of something that they're not. We're well past the point where a manager makes a club. Nobody operates that way anymore. Real Madrid are the most successful club in Europe. Did they run that way? No. The coach is a coach. You call Carlo Ancelotti a puppet? Think about it. It's not a U.S. model. It is the European model. It is the top club model. Look at Bayern. This is how they run. Look at Madrid. It's just the reality of it. Like I said, look, if you understand how City run and what Pep does there, he has very little say in certain aspects. He's actually taken less say in transfers over the years. Less. And you can bet that they have so much help directed in there. Now, has he earned a right to have a bigger voice? Yes, of course. But modern football runs with a head coach more than anything else. It's ridiculous, and it's derogatory because it makes no sense. Pep Guardiola is not a puppet, but he allows the club to run and does what he's supposed to. Come on, be real about it. The club is run by the directors and the CEO. That's it. That's who make the decisions and push things forward. That's how it works in modern football, and that's the most successful way because you eliminate variables. Otherwise, every time a manager fails, you're starting over from scratch, which is what we've done for years and years and years. So anyway, that's the fact of the matter. So that's what they're assessing Ten Hag in against, right? Now, has he been informed before Arsenal? I don't know. I honestly don't know that. I don't think it's as hidden as it seems. That being said, one of the things that's a little bit concerning, that's a little bit there was an article from Simon Mullock last Saturday that just seemed reading is everything I expected. Thank you for that. Yeah, he didn't find Doku. Yeah, you're totally correct. You're totally correct. I don't think it's as hidden, but at the same time, Simon Mullet kept putting out articles. And yesterday, on Saturday, he was saying he called Ten Hag the deluded Dutchman. That if you look, the article's actually been revised to remove that deluded word from there. I don't know why you included that in the article. It seems weird to me in general. It seems weird for a journalist to say that. Maybe it slipped in through the editing. But maybe he was ignorant to the fact of the job. Look, when I look at it overall, new owners, no assurances of next season, no contract talks. What does that tell you? Anybody should be able to understand that the risk there involved. So anyway, that's the Ten Hag situation as it is. We'll see. Do I believe the news? Yeah. But it's still being denied. It's still not coming. It was not intended to be briefed. It's not been briefed by the club. It's not been briefed by Ineos. It's not been put out by any of them. So, we still have to I would still hold your horses on all that. But this is where Ten Hag was being assessed against, basically, was all of that. That's what he was being assessed against. That was where he was looking at, that was what it comes down to. So it's not about blaming, Ten Hag for everything, but it is about whether he's the right person, to fit. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So obviously, Kieran McKenna. I mentioned way back again on those videos when I was talking about how they viewed sort of a head coach, a young up-and-coming coach, an exciting coach, a head coach. And I mentioned Kieran McKenna as an example of somebody that was admired by certain people. Somebody that was looked at and said, this is somebody who kind of fits that ideal and was working well. And obviously they were going to keep an eye on him. They were going to keep an eye on how he did this season, following the last and where he was going, and see what was gonna happen there. So somebody they've had an eye on for a long, long time. They've had an interview with him. They've talked with him this week. The view of Kieran McKenna is he's an absolutely highly respected coach. He's a highly respected coach. And he's somebody that he's a highly respected coach that has done a great job. And I understand when people talk about the championship and all of that, but I think that there's no hard and fast rules for this type of thing. Pep Guardiola's first major job was Barcelona, correct? That was his first head coaching job. At 38 years old, was Barcelona. Mikel Arteta's first job, head coaching job, was Arsenal after being an assistant. I'm sure you can find plenty of other examples, right? That's not saying it's going to work because of that, but there's no hard and fast rule on this. There's no hard and fast rule on when is a manager ready. McKenna has worked at Spurs, United for years, and now head coached a club up through, Zinedine Zidane's first job was Madrid after retiring from management. McKenna's a really experienced coach. He has more experience than Pep Guardiola, Zidane, and Arteta as a manager. He was never he wanted the job to join Ipswich. Ralph Rangnick wanted to keep McKenna and Carrick on. He 100% wanted to keep them on, but they wanted to go take other jobs. So there's arguments to be made both ways. It's not to say that it's a guarantee. Yeah, I know Pep coached Barcelona B. I'm talking at a senior level, at the top end level. There's no guarantees, but it doesn't take away from it. He will know what United is like, and that's a positive. He's not going to come in underestimating the Premier League. He's not going to come in underestimating the drama at United. He's not going to come in underestimating what it takes to work in a club like United. That's just the reality of it. Those were well-run clubs with massive budgets. Well, that's where we are. That's the point of what Ineos are coming in here. If this was still the Glazers, and Ineos didn't have sporting control, there's no way I would think McKenna could work. He'd be thrown under the bus in an instant. But the point is to do things right. The point is to do things right. And if we're going to do things right, then you can make it work with a manager like this if you do it correctly. So I think he's being strongly considered. As I said a couple of days ago, Wednesday night, I think you were getting these kind of briefs from Chelsea. He's going to choose Chelsea, loves Chelsea, wants to go to Chelsea. He's definitely Chelsea. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. Not the case. I'm not saying he wouldn't go to Chelsea if that was the only option. I'm saying that United knock is still different. And Kieran McKenna's a United fan. Kieran McKenna has worked for United, and he would come back to United. If United give him the offer, then he'll come back to United. Yeah. And I'll talk about Frank, and then I'll talk about some of the ways that this information might have leaked out and some of the challenges that would come through it, right? Look, the way you talk about Ten Hag is irrelevant to McKenna. Ten Hag, I cannot stress this enough. Okay, I'm going to say it again extremely clearly. Ten Hag was not hired by Ineos. Ten Hag was not hired by Ineos. Okay? That's all you need to understand. Ten Hag was not hired by Ineos. He is not their employee. He is not somebody they wanted. He's the default that was there when they took over the club. The way that things will go with him are different to the ways it'll go with anybody else that they bring in, because they will have a specific idea in mind and be hiring based on that idea, as they have for every other position, or interviewing based on that idea for every other position. And so they're going to be bringing in people at all positions through the club that fit exactly what they want. So they know what they want, and they will get somebody who, in all of these positions, CEO, director, sporting director, all of it, that is exactly what they want. That is very different to coming in and people just being there by default. You have a very, very little chance of somebody being there and just happen to accidentally fitting, what they want, fitting exactly what they're looking for. So, that's the difference. That's the big difference. Huge difference. It's a very, very different thing. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, you've got to be able to separate out them. You've got to be able to separate out you've got to be able to separate these things out. All right. So, you have to. So anyway, that's where we go. With McKenna, I understand there's stories in the past about shit about, PE teachers or school teachers, I think it was what it was, right? It doesn't matter. Don't care. I really don't care. For one, Rafael Varane was a specific player who praised his coaching methods. You go back and read some of the articles from back then. There are a few people that are just not a concern, that didn't like him. But again, it doesn't matter. You're not there for the manager. He's a coach. You're there for the club. That's it. That's what you play for. Let's talk about Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank is somebody, I understand why people are going to kind of freak out about this. Thomas Frank is why Thomas Frank? I think that when you look at what is valued by Ineos, it's obviously somebody who is they're looking for somebody who's very forward thinking, who's very kind of on the forefront of things, right? Brentford and Thomas Frank have been probably at the top in terms of the use of analytics, data, all of that, and forward thinking. And I think people, Moneyball football, I think people overrate, someone was saying this and I agree with this, people either overrate how big Brentford is or they underestimate how small they are. When you look at their turnover, wages, things like that, they overperform insanely. There was a graph the other day that compared, which is a good measure that compared like expected goal difference compared to relative to wages, performing and underperforming. Brentford are at the top, all the way at the top, and United are certainly well down near the bottom. And that's something, I understand. This is it's sort of a funny thing because people write off managers from small clubs, but that's where they all came from. Poch came from Southampton to Tottenham, did a great job with them. You can't say we are Brentford, okay, whatever. Again, Zidane wasn't even a manager, so we aren't a not managed club. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. These are just sort of sayings that don't really relate to anything. Everybody starts nowhere or starts small and then has to do something. Thomas Frank is viewed as a good coach, a good communicator, which is a big part of the process for all of them. One of their biggest things, aside from fitting into the role, is do they communicate well with players? Can they get their ideas across clearly? That is a big factor and something that they assess on. And do they like their ideas? And so, that's a part of it as well. And Thomas Frank is viewed as somebody very good in those areas, and they're definitely interested in him. They're definitely interested in him. He's a serious option, and right now I would lean towards McKenna and Frank as being more likely than anybody else should this manager change happen, as it's kind of expected at this point. I would lean towards that. And, that's what I think. That's what I see. So, it's for real. And what kind of happened here is this: if you look at that list from Chelsea, right, that they're looking at McKenna, Frank, Enzo Maresca, and a few other people, there's a lot of overlap. And what happened is these interviews have happened already, and they didn't leak. It's not Ineos. What happened is, with Chelsea sacking Poch kind of out the blue, right? And Poch being on the list and someone that United will speak with or have spoken with. Obviously, the problem is if you're interested in those managers and you're not telling them if you have a job available, then you could certainly miss out. And Chelsea start interviewing them. Chelsea are ready to offer a job. They want to move quickly. De Zerbi decides to leave Brighton. That adds competition for guys like McKenna. And suddenly you're in a tricky position because you have to start talking to these people now. But you also have to start talking to them and say, you have to start talking to them and saying, look, is there a job available or not? They're going to want to know if it's worth waiting around. They're going to want to know if it's worth actually kind of sitting with it. And waiting for an offer or considering it, because you don't want to get missed out as a manager too on an opportunity. So, that's the challenge. And so then you have to have those conversations. You have to have conversations or you feel missing out. And then those conversations are likely to come up in conversations with other clubs. And so if you wonder how these kind of stories come out, well, Chelsea can look at it and say, yeah, we spoke to McKenna and he tells us he's been contacted by United and they're interested in him. And then it starts to come out. And then McKenna, Frank, these other guys are going to Wilcox or United and saying, is there even a job offer? Is the job actually going to be available? What do you say? Do you sit there and say, no, we don't know? Because then they're going to go take another job. It's a tricky part, but this is how things leak. This is how things get out there, even if you don't want them to. And until Chelsea were involved, it wasn't leaking. It was quiet. Halftime Oranges, thank you for the donation. Last few months, we've had Newcastle being childish over Ashworth, and now Chelsea being crybabies and leaking this problems because of McKenna joke clubs. You're not wrong. There's things leaking from probably around United, not from like United officially, not from Ineos, but there's always leaks. And I think part of the problem is as it's come, nobody knows what Ineos are doing except me. No, but I do know very often what they're doing before other people. But most don't with sources around United. And a lot of stuff has not come down the pipeline until more recently. And as soon as it starts coming into the United kind of atmosphere, things start leaking. And that is a problem. That is something that United need to sort out. That Ineos need to sort out with United. Because it happens all the time. And it is unfortunate. It is very, very unfortunate that occurs. It's not, you wish it didn't, right? And certainly I wish it didn't. But it does. And yeah, you gotta not like that. But that's why they need to change some of the things. What would you guys like me to poll? What would you like me to poll today? McKenna and Frank. Pochettino is an option as well that they're gonna speak with. You want me to poll this just so you can see? Pochettino is an option. If we go with that list that they say, Pochettino and Tuchel, I can put all of them just so you guys can vote again. I think I did this yesterday. I think the overwhelming choice was McKenna, I doubt that's going to change much, to be honest. I doubt that's going to change much. Yeah, McKenna. I mean, it's already obviously going to be McKenna. It's like a few hundred votes in and it's like 80% McKenna. That's just the reality of it. Yeah, I get it. Give me 1 second. I gotta listen to something because I just got a message and I just want to check it. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, somebody, one of the things that was just that could be the case, in terms of this news coming out is, of course, if somebody talking to Chelsea's told them that they've accepted a job at United, for example, or that they've been offered the job at United, that could be a reason why a Chelsea side source might report something like this. Anyway, let's move on. I can see if my mute works. It's got like there's a little bar about stuff coming through. Yeah, there was people like Amarim that were looked at in the past, but for other reasons that they didn't fit and all of that. Yeah, so obviously McKenna's the clear choice here, right? Only other thing I would say is there's a lot of people in London right now for this thing. McKenna's a clear choice by people. It's interesting that. It is interesting that. Let me ask you a question. Let me do one more question because I am actually curious about this. Then, so let's say, let me end this poll, okay? Let's say it was this. I'm just curious about this because I've seen different polls. No, I want to see what you guys think. I don't know exactly where my chat stand. Wow, quite different, huh? All right. It was a voice note from Andy Tate screaming. That's good stuff. That is funny. Guys are funny. Honestly. Guys crack me up. Yeah, I mean, it's going the way of McKenna. Sure. Yeah, 3 at the backup session. I think that there's an aspect of, you know, coaching. It's not so much about the formation, but about, you know, like tactical, there have to be some tactical flexibility to fit in with things. But my guarantee 90% of the people voting McKenna haven't watched a single Ipswich game this season. Company dominated championship with Burnley and got relegated next season. PL's different gravy. And he's going to Bayern. That should tell you something. He got relegated with Burnley because playing that football doesn't work with a club that's that bad. That doesn't mean it wouldn't work with a top club. That's why I was concerned about him staying with Ipswich. If McKenna stayed with Ipswich and came to the Premier League and played the same football, they might really struggle and get relegated, and that would have a huge dampener on his future. But that's a point of why it'd be better to move to a different club like Brighton, if not United. All right, so there you have it. I mean, that's a pretty clear answer. 63% to McKenna, 37% Ten Hag. I was just curious. I thought that would be the case, but Rafa asks, would you personally switch Ten Hag or not? Yeah, personally I would, because I think that there's a good chance that I think that he hasn't necessarily shown he understands. He's made a lot of mistakes on the Premier League, and that's always been my concern. Not understanding it, not adapting to it, and I think it's hard to walk back from kind of the damage when you look at transfer-wise. We have to sell most of the players that have been signed under him over the last couple of years, and I think it's hard to deal with that. So I would. I think there's better options, and I think a fresh start is the best option. That's my opinion. Did Ten Hag know before the Arsenal game? I honestly don't know that. I think it's more likely that he's known more than has been let on. Let's put it that way. You know, that Crystal Palace game was a disaster. Right? I mean, a disaster. That was the worst United game I've ever watched. Personally. That was a disaster. Yeah. You know, the thing about McKenna's Ipswich squad is certainly that they're able to play a few different ways. Definitely. A fresh start every 2 years. No, I don't think that matters. I honestly don't think the 7-0 was worse. I don't. United were actually in that game. In the first half, they were in that game. They were in that game. The 7-0, they scored on like 7 shots. United were in that game in the first half. United were never in that Palace game. It was the most lethargic shit game I've ever watched, where they never looked like they even were there to play football. That was you know, Liverpool's finishing in De Gea, but that 4-0 to Palace was really bad. It was almost as bad was 3-0 by Bournemouth earlier in the year at home. That was a really, really bad game. That 7-0 was not a 7-0, you know, like by the numbers. It was not even close. It was crazy. It was just not, it was unlucky. in a lot of ways. I'm not saying we should have won, but it was definitely unlucky. I'm not putting Xavi in a poll. I really don't care about Xavi. Yeah. So, okay, cup final, and obviously all of this drama and stuff comes out ahead of the cup final, which everybody wants United to win, and no matter what happens, we should win. And the one thing I will say about it is, like I said at the beginning, no matter who is the manager, not the manager, no matter the noise, no matter this or that, it's a cup final against City. It does not matter. They should be up for it. They should be up for it. Yeah, they should be up for it. I have concerns that they will be. I have concerns about things I'm hearing about it. Not to be alarming, but just, I don't know. I have concerns. But we'll see. It's not been an easy season, you know. Yeah. Let's hope. It's a big game. It means European football next year or not, as well as a trophy. And I mean, man, they need to win that. They really do. Let's hope they do. It's gonna, you know, I don't think it's gonna set the tone for the year, because well, you don't have to watch, Yusuf. You don't have to watch if you don't like me like that. It's all good. You don't gotta watch. It's the last game. I'll be happy that it's over. I didn't feel this, you know, it's unfortunate. I didn't feel this way last year. I didn't feel this way under any season prior when we were going into the end of the year with any kind of finals or things like that. And, you know, but it is what it is at this point in time. I don't know what else to say about it. Let me think if there's anything else. Oh my God. Club are having like every single player get interviews. Kabi Menu did an interview. I think that's great to read. Yeah. Anyway, I'll sit here for a few more minutes and take some questions and see if there's, because I can't think if there's anything else that I've missed wanting to talk about today. Again, I'm not going to read the whole chat. So, like I said, I'm going to be greedy because otherwise I get way too distracted. That I will for sure answer any donations, but I'll give it about 2 or 3 more minutes otherwise, and then head off, because it's been an hour talking about this already, hasn't it? Yeah, my God. I think that United are definitely set to hold more kind of discussions with people over this next few days. Most likely. And yeah, to see what they're gonna do, to see where they're gonna go with things. I don't think that, maybe it has, but as far as I don't know, I don't think there's been like a decision on the next manager or something like that been made. It was a short list, and it was a short list as I understood it. Well, not necessarily that short list, but they were all the people that were looking there are definitely real options. So yeah. So we'll have to see when they meet and talk to more people and discuss with people. You know, there's going to be turnover, but I don't really like. I totally disagree with comments about how there's a bunch of players that have, you know, ruined a bunch of managers. Who? That Palace game had practically nobody. One of them was Diogo Dalot. The only remaining player who had actually played much under prior managers was Wan-Bissaka. Yeah. All right, let me see if there's any questions. Favorite toppings on pizza? I'll answer that one. That one stood out. Pepperonis, onions, jalapenos. That's my pizza of choice. Pepperoni, onions, jalapeno. And then red pepper and Parmesan on top. Yeah. Let's see. What else can I say? On the stadium, I still think there's going to be a new stadium built. I think that's the most likely outcome. I think they're still looking as to whether they Sorry, I'll come back to that, James Roberts. What the hell is that? Anyway, I think they're still observing and looking at the viability of Old Trafford being turned into a ground that they can use for the women's team and academy, and kind of how that would all factor into it, because obviously that decision has to get made, and even in terms of a new stadium, and a lot of that is being discussed and working on. Let's see. Yeah, that's probably about it. I mean, I discussed all the transfer stuff yesterday. If you have any questions that are not things I've already answered or talked about, put them in there. Anything else you want to say before I end this? Thank you all for hanging out here. It's been wow, quite a live stream. I don't think I've ever had this many people watching. I'll continue to do as much as I can through summer. I'm going to try to attend all the games again. Not again, I didn't get to attend them all last year, but I'm going to try to attend all the games, events, so, hopefully meet some people on the road there. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you for donations and all of that. It means a lot. Appreciate it very much. Bazooka 14. At least the Chelsea, is that a thing? Yes and no. I think Chelsea have some interest, but they've just bought this other kid from Brazil. They had a kind of a conflict last year about the whole thing. His brother plays for Chelsea. I think it's unlikely that he goes to Chelsea. I will do a podcast with Phil again on Monday, which should be interesting to say the least. And maybe over the weekend if anything else comes out after the cup final. I didn't really intend to ask all of, to get into all the manager stuff before the final. I didn't want the news to come out. I had hoped that it hadn't, but shit happens, I guess. 1 second, and then I'll probably end it here. 3, 3, 9, 2. Oops. All right, that's it. Cool. Anything else that y'all wanna ask me before this? No? Good. All right. Well, I'm gonna end it here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Obviously, good luck to United in the final. See if we can get something positive at the end of the season. Thank you all again for watching. Please make sure to subscribe and keep up with things through the summer, because it's gonna be crazy times. Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate it. And I will see you all later.